Well, good morning, BBD. Thank you for your time that I could do this presentation for my takeaway of Phish and chips. Today, I'm going to be speaking to you about cybersecurity. Just a bit of background. My name is Tristan Phipson, and I am a junior software engineer here at BBD. I'm currently working on two projects at Vodacom, one of them being Vodacom Cybersecurity, and the other one being Vodacom Converged Portal 2.0. Both of these projects, just as some context, are heavily data focused, they're data centric. So in the projects, we have to focus on ingesting large amounts of data, processing the data, storing it, and being able to query it for reporting and analysis at a later point in time. So the reason why I bring this up is that before I started my work at Vodacom, especially in the cybersecurity sector of it, I had a general understanding of cybersecurity and the types of threats that were out there and the likelihood that I might get attacked or that I might be vulnerable to certain cyber attacks. I knew it was there, but I never really thought it was something that could be possible to happen to me or to be applicable to what I'm doing. But being at Vodacom and working with the people in cybersecurity, I was exposed to a lot more in terms of what is actually out there, what's happening today, and it gave me a lot more perspective on how things are actually happening in the world today in the digital space. So this is what I'm going to be talking about today, the prevalence of cybercrime and cyber threats that are out there today and why you should be aware of them. So did you know that more than 75% of cyber attacks are originated with a simple email? And that goes to your normal phishing emails. So when someone sends you an email that looks like it's come from your bank for some payment that's outstanding and you click on it and it looks like it was from that website, that's one way to do it. Other times it's got a malicious attachment. And in that attachment, it'll download something that's going to compromise your computer. And instead of just telling you about phishing, I thought I would try to find an example. So what I did is I went to my inbox, into my spam folder. Some context, this is my personal email address. And it is an email address that I've had since I was in primary school. So I might not have had the best cybersecurity practices all the way back then. So anyways, there's obviously been a lot of funny things that's been happening. And you'll see here in my inbox, this is just over the course of the last 30 days. UPS seems to really like my email address. I don't have an account at UPS. I don't ever use them. That's United Postal Service. But they seem to have some interest with me. So what you'll see here, if you open those emails, and I made sure to open them in a secure manner that they didn't download anything. But what you'll see is that there were various different organizations or people that were trying to just send out these emails with something that could be important to someone, say, that had subscribed to UPS for maybe a package delivery or ordering something. So in that example, this is basically what they do is they get something that might apply to the general public and they'll flood it out to wherever they can. So this doesn't apply to everyone, especially me. I can see this and know straight up that doesn't apply to me. But there might be someone, say, in America that actually is using UPS and isn't too clued up on cybersecurity or what to expect. And they might see this and now get worried. This usually happens with the older generation, which actually is one of the horrible things about cybercrime is that they don't care at all about who they're attacking. So just in general, when you find an email that you might not be expecting, just make sure the ways that you can identify whether it is phishing or maybe legitimate is to first look at where it actually came from. You'll see an example. This UPS email came from that address, as you can see there. That is not a standard way that you get an email from a legitimate business. It's quite an interesting address. And then something else that I wanted to mention is that I got an email from emiratespost.ae trying to say that I had won a kettle. And this came from Electric Smeg Kettle Department from emiratespost.ae. So first of all, that's red flags as soon as you see it. But also, you have to look at the attention to detail that they put in for this email with the macro logo, the styling, and just how this looks like it's from 2007. So there are lots of times when you can pick out these emails and be, okay, that's rubbish. You can delete it and you'll know you're safe and you're fine. But there are problems that the awareness around this whole environment and cybersecurity, especially in phishing, sometimes people that work in the industry don't really even know too much about phishing or what it could possibly do. I know that there's some people that have open phishing emails that has led to some bad consequences because it's either downloaded something or they've gone and entered details somewhere. But what I wanted to now mention is an example of a large spread attack that happened back in 2011. I'm not sure if any of you are familiar with Operation Shady Rat. This was coined Shady Rat given that a remote access Trojan is called a rat, basically malicious code that you install on your device that allows an external connection. So how this happened, or what this actually was, it turned out to be the Chinese military, especially their cyber department, were trying to get as many holds and grips of different infrastructure around the world. As an example, they tried to get a hold of infrastructure in America for their water treatment plants, their electricity plants, communication, all that critical infrastructure what they did is they literally sent out emails to people that were within these organizations that were saying that they were from someone else. So they were pretending to be someone of a higher authority that then gave them an imperative, like, hey, you need to do this, please check this link, fill this out. And then what that did was either it would have an attachment, like I mentioned earlier, that installed some malicious software, being this rat, the Trojan that would allow access. And now what this meant was that per attack, every time this happened, a remote access Trojan was installed on a device, connecting it to this network of rats. They coined a term, it was connecting a network of rat caves. So essentially what is happening is all over America, all sorts of different infrastructure, from internet providers to water to electricity, they had people that were compromised, even in a simple way that they wouldn't even know about, just because now the software has been installed on their device. So on a small scale, you think, okay, cool, they got access to my device. That could be problematic. All right, that's bad. But on a larger sense, it was now all over America, this network of open connections that was connected to cyber criminals or cyber militia in China that were able to access hundreds of devices connected to multiple sets of infrastructure. So you can just imagine the potential harm that could cause if that was coordinated in such a way to cause damage to multiple sets of infrastructure all over large countries such as America. That could bring down water plants, that could bring down electricity, internet, communication. So that was one aspect of Operation Shady Rat. Another operation that was part of that was an email that got sent to an employee at Lockheed Martin in America. Now, they were contracted to develop the F-35 and many other Department of Defense technologies. And the one interesting thing that came out of this hack was that someone in this department got an email. They thought it was legitimate. They opened it. They didn't suspect anything. But what happened was a couple months down the line, rough timeline, a couple months, maybe a couple of years, China had released a fighter jet that was strikingly similar to the F-35. And that started raising red flags then, as wondering how on earth did our data get leaked? So then this spun up a whole investigation, which eventually led to finding out that this operation was used to steal data, to connect to devices. And essentially my point with this is that this all originated from a simple email. It wasn't necessarily an advanced attack that came in to compromise someone's Wi-Fi and get into their system. It was simply an email that was then acted on by an unsuspecting victim, the employee of Lockheed Martin, for instance. And then a more recent example you might be aware of is the NHLS attack. That is our National Health and Laboratory Service in South Africa. They haven't yet disclosed what the cause of that was in terms of how the vulnerability was exposed, but that was a different attack vector from phishing that was ransomware. Now being that they had malicious software on their devices that were able to capture their data and also their infrastructure and be able to lock it and hold it for ransom, which actually ended up in lots of lives lost and complications in the medical industry due to lack of access to information. So the point of that is, again, it's just we might see a side of it that it might seem less significant in terms of these phishing attacks. You can just delete the email, cool. But in general, what we need to do as a society, especially people outside of this industry, is to promote awareness of these attacks so that people can avoid them. It's very easy to avoid it. It's just if you don't know about it, you're more susceptible. So on that note, we probably all do know lots of tools that we use for security. So in general, we have things like MFA and antivirus and EDR, so endpoint detection and response. So for instance, Microsoft in its operating system has an EDR where your endpoints in this sense will be things like USB ports and Wi-Fi connections, where it'll be looking for things such as, I'm going to demo something just now with keystroke injection. But essentially what happens is if some suspicious activity is detected on something like an endpoint being a USB port, it can flag it, it can stop it, and then it can immediately stop that threat before it happens. So that's a very, very useful thing to have. And then just another thing I wanted to mention is there's a site by Troy Hunt called Have I Been Pwned? And essentially this is very useful because you can put in your details such as your email address, and it will search through known databases of leaked data and will tell you if you have been pwned. Pwned being that your details have been released into the dark web. So unfortunately, this red banner you see here is actually my email address that I put in, the same one I showed you with all the spam. So it says that it was found in 7 data breaches. It says it wasn't used, but it says it was found in those breaches. But what you can see from this is that on this day that I figured this out, I had 773 million reasons to choose a better password, because at that point in time, I was using multiple repeated passwords that could have been slightly more complicated to hack. So what I want to leave you with for this slide in particular is that repeated passwords, very bad. Simple passwords, very bad. So yeah, please make sure that you are using some kind of, it can help to have a password manager, but I won't get into too much of that. So now what I'm going to do for a bit of a demonstration is what I mentioned earlier is keystroke injection. So in the olden days, people would get just a normal USB flash drive. They would install a script on it that basically, when Windows found the drive, they utilized what Windows would use as autoplay. So usually you could plug in a CD to a disk drive and it would start up automatically. Cool, that's fine. But they had the same kind of technology for a USB, where the USB would find the files that it has to autoplay. But what this meant is that you could replace your media file with a malicious script, that you could just leave a memory stick lying around with this malicious script on it. Someone would find it, plug it in. Oh, nothing happened. Okay, cool. But in the background, it's downloaded script, it's executed commands, run schedules, and it's done all sorts of bad things. So what I'm going to do for now, for demonstration purposes, just want to make sure that's showing. Cool. For demonstration purposes, I have set up a simple script that will be executed by this device, which works in a manner of injecting keystrokes, quite literally. Instead of running commands in the background, what it's doing is it's pretending to be a keyboard with a pre-programmed line of commands to run. So you'll see when I plug it in, I'm going to stand back so that it's not me. So see now at the top there, it's just a little bit delayed. Opening up a console, it's just going to my public GitHub page. And okay, this is something expected. This is just something to do with the connection to the internet. If it doesn't work again, I'll just show you what it would have done. So essentially what this is doing, the script is just fetching a file that's on the internet. It could be from anywhere. But in this case, it's just a script that I wrote, which all it does is it just shows some flashy characters on the screen. So I'll show you that here. Let me just get rid of that. So usually this would work, but I was informed that there are sometimes issues with the internet. If it doesn't work again, I'll just move on. But essentially what this means is that you can make a custom payload for this that can do a whole variety of things. In this case, it would have downloaded a script that would have run, which could have been malicious. It could have then set up background tasks that run, or it could have installed, here we go, it's working now. So, I mean, this is just flashy just for show. It's not actually doing anything. It's just the concept of what you could be doing with this type of device. It's really small. I'm sure you can see there. This is a Raspberry Pi Zero. It's smaller than my thumb, and it's not even one of the smallest. There are smaller ones than this. So yeah, that is keystroke injection. Cool thing about this is that many, like the Windows Defender, many defense softwares, they can detect against this due to the cadence and the speed of your typing. So you'll see there that you could still see it typing in the manual keystroke. So it was a lot faster than what we would type, but it was not, it wasn't automated as fast as it could be, because your device naturally will pick that up because it's been trained that if you're typing at a ridiculous speed, it'll flag that as not normal activity, and then it can block that. Cool. The last thing I just wanted to demo is a captive portal. So a captive portal is when you create an access point on your device that when someone else connects to it, well, first of all, it poses as a legitimate connection, and it looks like it could just be free Wi-Fi. Cool, I'm going to connect to that. So I'm going to get this going here while I keep talking about it. So captive portal creates an access point. It looks like free Wi-Fi, appears legitimate. A user is going to connect to it, and when that happens, they're going to be redirected to a login page. So you can probably picture this when you've gone to a hotel or an airport and you wanted to use their free Wi-Fi. Cool, they have a program where you can sign in, you get 500 megabytes for free. Just want to see, is this not sharing anymore? So if you have your phone here, you're welcome to follow along with me if you would like. Just be aware, nothing is going to happen to this. It's just going to come up with a login screen, and I'm going to show you what you've typed. So if you have connected and you're putting in login information, just don't use a real password. And yeah, at your own risk. So what I'm doing now is on my phone, I'm going to point it to the screen, to the camera now, is that it's popped up with a message saying, okay, I need to sign in to totally safe Wi-Fi. So this access point is called totally safe Wi-Fi because it is totally safe. And now what you'll see is that there's a login screen. This isn't important. This could be whatever you want it to be. It's just simple HTML, CSS, JavaScript. You can make it look as legitimate as you want. You can copy Google, you can copy Facebook. You can just make it look fancy. And I can see that there are many, many connections happening. I'm going to start my sharing again. I see there might be a problem with that. Sorry about this. So this is another form of credential theft where you would possibly go to a crowded area, such as a cafe or a restaurant, and you would open this network, and now there's going to be unsuspecting people that think, this is a bargain, I get free Wi-Fi. They're going to connect to it, and now what's going to happen is, once they've connected, it actually creates a connection to my device which then starts doing actual internet routing. So with that, just want to see. Okay, so there appears to be an issue with the screen sharing, but essentially on my side, what I can see is all the details put in here, such as usernames, emails, or passwords, are in plain text for me. I can see them. They're logged on my side. So the thing I want to talk to you now, well, not talk to you now about, but just end with, is that you must be very aware at all times that there are people out there that are wanting to steal your information. You might think that you're not susceptible to this, but there are people actively trying to steal information, steal passwords, steal usernames. And especially when it comes to something like free Wi-Fi, please avoid it. And if you are going to use a free Wi-Fi, just make sure you know what you're getting into and maybe use a VPN so that your traffic is encrypted. But yes, that is the end of my talk. Thank you very much.